says is necessary, cancelled by this government before it even started. So I call on her to think again on those issues, to introduce those measures in April that the previous government announced, and introduce this hard cap. If she is serious about combating illegal migration and getting the net legal migration figures down, she will adopt those measures.
Secretary.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think if anyone believed that flights were going to go off to Rwanda this summer, the party opposite wouldn't have called the general election when they did. They would have hung on, hoping that it might happen, but it's just been the same thing time and again. They kept promising, they kept saying it was going to happen, but now everybody can see it was a total failure. It ran for over 2 years, and they kept promising the flights were going to go. They never did, but they just spent £700 million instead. They know so much, do they know, that this was a total failure. Their leader, their newly elected leader, won't even promise to reinstate it because she knows the whole thing was a con. And let me remind the Shadow Home Secretary too, the first half of this year, so the last 6 months of his government, crossings hit a record high for that season. If that trend had carried on, if that trend for the first half of the year, for the record high, had increased, had carried on through the summer, we would have had thousands more crossings that we would have been dealing with. Instead, because we had the increase for people arriving from Vietnam, this government introduced a major charter flight, return flight to Vietnam, and has been working with the Vietnamese government to make sure that those numbers from Vietnam can come down. We've also had to deal with a total collapse in their asylum decision-making that they left us with before the election, which has meant we have had to get caseworkers back in place that they had deployed elsewhere and let the backlog soar. But I would just say the Shadow Home Secretary then sort of wriggles a little bit around the net migration figures that have gone up to this record high, 900,000, because of the new rules that they brought in, that his government brought in 2021. Who was the immigration minister who brought in those rules? The Shadow Home Secretary.